How's it going, everyone? Mufara here. Welcome to Heliopolis Radio. Thank you all for tuning in. Today, we've been fortunate to be joined by Alan Lazoros. He's the CEO of Next Level University Podcast. It's a top 100 podcast with over a million listeners listened to in over 170 countries. It's also generated more than $1.1 million in revenue. So it's quite successful. He's here to share a bit about himself, what he does, or what he loves to do for a better way to phrase it, and also what he offers you, the guests, in terms of some of the programs that he runs. So without further ado, Alan, I hand it over to you. Tell us about yourself. What is it that you love to do?
What is it that I love to do? Uh, First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I want to start with gratitude because 9 years ago I started listening to podcasts and they really helped me reorient my life in a more positive direction. And so now I'm helping people reorient their life in a more positive direction. So it is a dream come true. Even though you're new and this is a small show, that's totally fine. I'm so grateful to be here. I really appreciate it. And good for you for chasing your dreams.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's so awesome to see you chasing your dreams. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I respect and admire it so much, genuinely, because at one point I was a fairly new podcaster way back, so I can totally relate to that. Forgive me. How many episodes in are we? Just so I have context.
50 episodes in. 50
Oh,
episodes
okay, so you're
in.
not as new. My bad. Okay, so you're not as new as I thought. You mentioned
Uh,
my business partner was on the show.
yes, he was the first
Eh,
guest we had.
He was the very first episode. Okay,
Yes.
so, but I remember 50 episodes in, so we are kindred spirits in that. So good for you. Keep it up, man. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Asking me what I love to do. What I love to do, the weird sort of esoteric answer is help people reach their full potential,
Mhm.
their own unique potential. Because I think that it's a duality. I think on one hand, there are certain principles and fundamentals that apply to every human being. And then on the other hand, the way in which you apply those principles depend on where you live and the context of your situation and your goals and your core values. And I believe in choice above all else. And so we all have sort of a choice in the way in which we live our lives. You chose to start a podcast, so did I. So what do I love to do? I love to help people reach their full potential. That's kind of the short answer. The longer answer would be I love to podcast, I love to train, and I love to coach. And podcasting is one to scale, training is one to several,
Mhm.
and one to one, coaching is one to one. And the one to one is where you really dig in and you learn deeply. You dig deep and you learn. And then podcasting is one to scale where you kind of cast a wider net and you talk to bigger audiences. And so what I love to do is to speak into other people's lives to help inspire, motivate, and educate them on I say how to chase their dreams, how to achieve their dreams, how to achieve their goals, how to reach their full potential. And I say how because I think that's the hard part. I don't think people know how. And I'm an engineer, and so I reverse engineer everything. And I work really hard on the how because I'm a formula thinker. And there
Mhm.
is a formula. There's a formula to how to achieve your dreams. And the way you apply that formula differs based on your context and your culture and your country and your goals and your own unique potential.
Oh, wow. Interesting way. I love the way you really broke it down there. So structurally, it was really good. And so I know this is a bit of a kind of a turn, but I did read your bio and I also did learn a bit about you from Kevin, obviously, as well. But if you don't mind me asking, I mean, you've had to survive some very difficult circumstances within your own life, right? And essentially, I know that what we go through, it really, really kind of shapes what we choose to do and what we choose to pursue. And so I was wondering, what did some of the adversity that you faced in your life, that which you're willing to share, obviously, what did it teach you
Well,
about yourself and yeah, we'll just start with that. What did it teach you about yourself and how did it shape you into doing what you're doing today?
yeah, so I appreciate the question. And you and I off air, we talked a little bit briefly. I joked and I said I'm going to come in as an entitled American. And the truth of the matter is, I look like what I call a silver spooner. So a silver spooner is someone who it looks like they had everything handed to them.
Hmm.
And I do look that way. I understand that I look that way. I've got all my awards in the background and
Yeah.
my degrees, and at this stage, I'm definitely building wealth and
Yeah.
I'm actually 36, even though I look 15. And I say I'm 36. I'm actually 35. I'm going to be 36 in November. I'm sorry. I'm
Uh,
already so future oriented. I'm about to be 36.
yeah.
But I've been on this planet for 35 years, about to be 36, and it couldn't be farther from the truth, the silver spoon thing. Now, I want to be very clear about this, particularly because you said a lot of your listeners are in South Africa, and I don't have a ton of context. I've never been there.
Mm.
However, I do know the stats. I'm an engineer, and I know the stats.
Mm.
And the statistics show that the U.S. is the wealthiest country in the world by a significant margin,
Mm.
and it's really not close, to be honest. The next closest is China, and I don't say that as an entitled American. I say that knowing that I have privileges other people don't have.
Mm.
Now, the second piece of this, there's three advantages. I'm going to start with the three advantages that I had, and then I'll go into the adversity and answer your question.
Yep.
Okay?
Nice.
But if you don't know the advantages, the adversities won't make any sense. So the first advantage is I was born in the wealthiest country on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's the first one. And that country invested in my brain. I got financial aid and scholarships to go to college.
Mm.
When my stepdad left, we went broke.
Mm.
In the context of my situation, we weren't going to starve by any means, but I got free lunch at school because our income was so low. My mom traded in her BMW for a little Honda Civic, and I was pretty much broke through high school and college.
Mm.
But because I had a powerful mind and I did really well in high school, I got straight A's through all of high school. My Massachusetts and the U.S. invested a lot of financial aid and scholarships for me to go to college. And the college I went to was $50,000 a year. And this is back then.
Yeah.
So this is back in 2008, 2009, right? So I got a computer engineering degree from one of the best engineering colleges in the world. It's called Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's like a mini MIT.
Nice.
And I was very grateful for that. So that's advantage number one. Advantage number two is we all have a certain genetic potential. Mm-hmm. And while I am definitely not genetically gifted in terms of strength in the gym, I'm fairly weak no matter how hard I try, I am definitely genetically gifted in the intelligence arena. Yeah. I'm reading a book called Multiple Intelligences, and it talks about all the different types of geniuses, and there's 9 modalities. And for anyone who is gifted, it will resonate for me to share that I also do know that, and this I didn't know when I was a kid. I kind of knew, but I really knew when I started doing therapy in my 30s and I started realizing how weird I am. I definitely gifted. Definitely someone who, I got straight A's in high school, and yeah, I put in more work than the average bear, but it wasn't that hard for me. Most things aren't that hard for me, and I need to be honest about that. Now, the third advantage that I had was, and I think it's connected to the genetic thing, I believed in myself to such a drastic extent. And I didn't know this until later because my whole life, people around me mirror me, and so they act like they have huge dreams too. But when you get older and older and older, you realize that most of the people you grew up with didn't end up achieving any of their dreams. And so they were more talking when I actually meant it. And so that's been really hard for me to swallow as well, to be completely honest. But those are the three advantages. So I had a ton of self-belief. I definitely am gifted as much as I was too much of a coward to ever share that before. And then number 3, I definitely have advantages that other people don't have just because I happen to be in the wealthiest country in the world. Now, despite all of those things, and by the way, I've studied my life upside down and sideways, those are the only 3 advantages. And I'm telling you, the rest was pretty terrible, to be completely honest. And so on a public medium, it's scary to share certain things. And what I will say is my childhood wasn't all bad. There were a few bright spots, a few things that I think were good. But for the most part, if I were to put my childhood all in a giant ball, and I would just say that ball is pretty terrible. And I say that sort of playfully, tongue-in-cheek, but the truth is it was statistically very, very adverse. There's a lot of adversity. So we all have adversity, different frequencies, intensities, densities, and durations. How we handle that adversity is different for everybody, but mine was a lot. So there's something called an ACE score, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And I have a very, very, very high ACE score. And when you mentioned what are some of the adversities that I went through, the ones that I can share publicly. So when I was 2 years old, my father passed away in a car accident
Sorry
when he
about
was
that.
28. Thank you. Thank you. And so my sister was 6, my mom was 31, I was 2, about to be 3. And my stepfather came into the picture from age 3 to 14. He left my family at 14, took his entire extended family with him. That same year, so 14 was the hardest year of my life. So my real last name is actually McCorkle.
Mm-hmm.
My birth father is John McCorkle. So he had a big Irish Catholic family. It was Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette.
Mm-hmm.
And when my stepdad came into the picture, we kind of didn't associate as much with the McCorkles because we were sort of being the Lazarus's.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my stepdad's last name, Lazarus. Lazarus is a very Greek last name.
Mm.
And so people who are Greek, they look at me and go, Lazarus? Because I'm not a hair on me, blonde hair, blue-eyed, and I don't look Greek whatsoever.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's not my birth father's last name. I'm Irish and Scottish and German. But anyways, so 14 was the hardest year of my life. Didn't realize this at the time. Only in therapy in my 30s that I kind of understand this.
Mm.
Stepfather leaves, takes his entire extended family with him. To this day, I've never seen a single one of them.
Well, yeah.
I have talked to my stepdad a little bit on Facebook Messenger. That same year, 14, freshman in high school, my mom gets in a fight with my Aunt Sandy, her sister, and my Aunt Sandy ostracizes us from her side of the family. So we don't associate my birth father's side of the family. My stepfather's family and him all left, and then my mom's side ostracized us. To this day, I've only ever seen 2 humans from my mom's side of the family.
Mm.
So talk about a 14-year-old with the scaffolding just ripped out from under him.
Mm.
And there's 2 trauma responses that I had to that. So the 4 trauma responses are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Mm.
I chose fawn socially it was fawn. Fawn means you appease. You don't poke the bear. You don't tell people what you really think. You appease and just try to fit in. Fight, behind the scenes, when it wasn't socially, I think there's 2 worlds. There's your world, like the real world, and then there's the social world. And in the real world, behind the scenes, it was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. There was an intensity and a belief. It was, I look into my future, and there's no dad, there's no trust fund, there's no families. No one's going to save you. And then I look at my past, and there's pain there too. So when the past is painful and the present is painful, and you look into the future and go, that's going to be painful if I don't do something about it, I somehow decided I was going to be successful and wealthy. And I bootstrapped just really straight A's through all of high school. I got what's called the President's Award. It's behind me, signed by George W. Bush. And I got into college. I got my computer engineering degree. I got my master's in business. And then I was off to the races. I worked for a bunch of tech companies, iRobots, Inside Technologies, Tyco Safety Products, a company called Oz Development, Lens Americas, all these different tech companies. I lived in LA for a short time. I job hopped a lot. I went from 65 to 85, 85 to 105, 105 to 125, 125 to $180,000 a year.
Wow.
And so I became a 1% global earner. Global, not US based, because US based is like 450 or something like that. But I became a 1% global earner in my early 20s.
Wow.
I didn't have any kids. I was dating a woman named Courtney. We lived on a lake. My rent was $500 a month. And when you're making $180,000 a year and you drive a 2004 Volkswagen Passat that I bought for $5,000 cash, I just invested all my money. So I got paid off all my college debt in a single year back in 2014, 84 grand in a single year.
Wow.
I invested all the rest of my money in a Vanguard account. So I invested in ETFs and tech companies, and ones that I had a high probability of winning. And I was just off to the races, just building wealth. And I was good at what I did. I was an inside sales engineer, and then I became an outside sales engineer for a company called Cognex. They sell industrial automation equipment into manufacturing facilities all across the world. And my territory, once I became an outside sales engineer, was Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Massachusetts.
Mhm.
And they sell machine vision equipment. So picture the eyes of a robot, the best way to describe
Wow.
it. 100 water bottles going down a line, cameras taking pictures, making sure that the cap is on correctly, and
And
all
then
that kind of stuff.
everything. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Quality assurance. And so then I got in my car accident. So at this point, I'm 26, about to be 10 years ago, which is wild.
Mm.
Um, I have high school friends and college friends and corporate friends. I'm too much, spread myself too thin. I'm successful as hell, but I'm deeply unfulfilled.
Mm.
I drink too much and too often. I party.
Mm.
I kind of am resting on my talent a little bit.
Mm.
I was not maximizing my potential. I wasn't fit. But I was definitely achievement oriented. I was definitely improvement oriented. I was definitely goal oriented. And I wasn't a bad person by any means. But I was definitely not focused on self improvement. So I get in my car accident. I'm up in New Hampshire, my little cousin. I end up on the wrong side of the road, dark winter night in 2015. The snowbanks are covering the yield signs. I look down at the GPS. I look up. I see the brightest lights I'd ever seen.
Wow.
It's what I thought was a Mack truck. It ended up, two things saved my life. First of all, when I saw those lights, it was mortality moment. It was, there's no possibility I survive this. This is
Wow.
the end.
Wow.
My little cousin's in the car with me. His name's Dan. So the person that came back from my mom's side, his name's Jeff. His son is Dan, my second cousin. And two things saved my life. The first one is it wasn't a Mack truck. If it was a Mack truck, I would not be here.
Wow.
It was a lift-kitted pickup truck, like a big lift kit.
Yeah.
A lot of those up in New Hampshire. And the second thing is the Volkswagen Passat that I bought for $5,000 cash. I used to call this car the Tank. It was a German-engineered steel trap of a car. This was a super safe car. The whole front end was completely smashed in, but the frame stayed.
I've seen in the some of the tests that they do for the original. I don't know, it was the four-door. They'll do the impact test, and it's amazing how that
Yeah,
car can really take some
unbelievable.
heavy damage. Wow.
The Volkswagen for sure. I mean, if I was in a little tiny Honda Civic or something, I wouldn't be here. The Volkswagen, that model, I found out later, is one of the safest cars ever made.
Yeah.
Super safe. It was. I remember it was a very heavy car. Like it was just. I call it the Tank.
Mm.
I used to call it a Tank. So thank you, Volkswagen, seriously, because my goodness. So airbags deployed. He hurt his knee on the airbag. I hurt my face in the airbag. But physically, we're good.
Wow.
But I'm completely. So my dad died in a car when he was 28. I'm 26 at the time, and this is the second chance my dad never got. This is my quarter life existential crisis. What did it all mean? What was the point? Regret. Who the hell am I? Am I proud of me? Did it matter? What is that? And so after that, I flipped the script, man. I went all in on self-improvement. After that, I went all in on self-improvement, and that was almost 10 years ago. And so now I have these four buckets that I talk about. I'll go quick with it, but I think these are the four buckets of growth we all go through. The first one is you're unsuccessful and unfulfilled. I was a cart kid and a busboy when I was young. I think I was 16 years old. And I remember people used to say, high school, like, these are the best years of your life. And I remember thinking, God, I hope not. Because this is terrible. I don't know what you guys are talking about, right? Turns out these were high school was the best years of their lives. But anyways, so I was unsuccessful, unfulfilled, cart kid and a busboy. I was mistreated. It was definitely a toxic environment in hindsight. And then I learned how to become very successful, but I was still unfulfilled internally. And then after my car accident, I actually flipped the script. I was happy, healthy, productive, fitness model, fitness competitor, fitness coach, fulfilled internally, so fulfilled. Love myself, love my life, love my inside. But outside, I was broke. I went broke. I liquidated all my assets. I went past broke. I went into debt. I started my own companies, and I was super fulfilled internally, but I was unsuccessful externally.
Mm.
So it turns out that also kind of sucks because you can't sustain it. You can't sustain it. And so now I'm in the fourth bucket. I call these the 4 buckets. The fourth bucket is where I know we all want to get to. I don't care who you are or where you're from. We all want to get to this bucket, which is I want to be externally successful and internally fulfilled. And so few people get there. It took me 30 years to get to that place. And if you can look yourself in the mirror and authentically say, I want my future to be an amplified version of what it already is, you are in the fourth bucket. You are already living the dream. Now, does that mean there's no challenges? Absolutely not. Does that mean it's not a mountain that gets higher as you climb it? No. However, you are in the fourth bucket and you better be grateful as hell and you better earn it every goddamn day because that fourth bucket is awesome. It's really, really awesome. And Kevin and I have gotten into that fourth bucket through massive pain and failure. Mm. And we are now fighting every single day to sustain and grow that. Mm. And that's the bucket I help people get to. Because I'm a business coach, I have 26 people, I think 25 people on my roster currently as of yesterday. And all of them are in one of those 4 buckets. Not all of them are in that fourth bucket. That fourth bucket, hopefully your listeners all aspire to get to that fourth bucket. And success externally looks different for all of us, and fulfillment internally looks different for all of us. However, there are formulas, there are processes, there are steps, there are principles that apply to all of us. And if you learn how to apply those principles consistently over time, you really can achieve your dreams within reason.
Wow, Alan. First and foremost, thank you for sharing your personal story. Yeah, not an easy life, but just the humility and kind of sobriety that you've looked at your problems and handled them is inspirational in of itself. So thank you. Um, really appreciate that. And then in terms of just how you've actually given an honest account of what it means to be internally fulfilled, but also recognizing the material need for existence. A lot of people kind of undersell or oversell on that point. So for being
I
honest on that,
know.
I really thank you. Particularly, particularly in the emerging, the self-help industry is quite big, but a lot of people sensationalize and they undercut all the dirty stuff that you have to really go through to make it work. So
Yeah, and they really do. And you know what else? They lose sight of the climb, man. I'll never forget this, and this is nothing against Oprah because I think in many ways I admire her deeply. But I remember I'll never forget her saying, if I could go back, I wouldn't worry so much. Oprah, the reason you got to where you are is because you worried. You can't sit on the couch eating Cheetos and achieve your dreams, no matter what 4-hour work week you're reading. And by the way, Tim Ferriss has never worked 4 hours a week in his life. That dude grinds always. And so you see these people at the top of their metaphorical mountain with external success who talk about how, well, I wouldn't have worried so much, or, I would have worked less. No, like, it's easy to say that after the fact, but when there's a college kid or a person in their teens or a person in their early 20s who is hearing that, it's dangerous and it's dishonest. It's dishonest because those people who have reached their dreams and they weren't fulfilled forget that the only reason they're fulfilled now and have the luxury to focus on fulfillment is because they grinded. And so you'll never hear me say, no matter how successful I get, you'll never hear me say that it wasn't a fucking grind, because it just is. I wake up every day and I think, okay, you have your health, you are every day above ground is a good day, and you have to go get it. You have to go earn it every day. I actually do think a lot of people are entitled in the 21st century. I work 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, from 10 to 6 front facing, and I'm working way more than that. And I haven't taken a single day off in 9 years. A single full day off. Doesn't mean I work all day every day, but I never have taken a full day off in 9 years. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to do that.
Hmm.
But I am saying if you want success, real success, you are going to have to work consistently. And if you're trying to get quick fixes and three easy steps, and you are in serious trouble. And yeah, you
Hmm.
might look successful with vanity metrics, but you're never
Mm.
going to actually be a successful person unless you're willing to grind and grow.
Thank you for the honest words, and thank you for being real. So for those of you tuning in, it's a good, sincere message, particularly in this economy that we're living in and this time that we're living in with the challenges. True success, it's a grind. So take it for someone who's walking their journey. So thank you so much for sharing that, Alan. And coming to the Next Level University podcast, you already briefly touched on it. Um, how did you grow it to the size and scale that you did? One thing I loved about me and Kevin, I may not look about it, I don't not look like it, but I do love the whole essence of bodybuilding. And we had a conversation about Ronnie Coleman, and it's funny. You probably know that saying, everyone wants to be a bodybuilder, but no one wants to lift no damn heavy ass weight. So, uh, so starting the podcast, with that, obviously, again, it's your baby, it's its own unique journey. But how did you persevere to get it to the scale that you did? What was your mentality? How did you and Kevin kind of go through the trenches together? Because again, when you do things as a partnership, I know myself, I struggle with people at a certain point. When you butt heads with someone, you know how our human mentality is. We struggle, we think of going our separate ways, we think of doing our own thing. But how did you two really establish the foundations of the podcast? I do understand it's free for people to listen to as well,
Yeah.
which is also a different take on it. In terms of monetization and everything. So I guess I'm just really curious, and I think those listening in is how would you grow something to that scale, to that level of success, whilst keeping a strong level of sincerity to it, not letting the whole essence of money get in the way or, vanity, perhaps. It does happen even with myself. I know I'm 50 episodes in, but just being honest with you, if I'd been more disciplined and less vanity oriented, I probably would be 200 episodes in. But again, you go through phases in life where, you spend all the money, you put in equipment, you put in episodes, you get in guests, you edit, it doesn't work out, life happens. You're working full time, you've got all sorts of things that you deal
Yeah.
with. So if you don't mind sharing that component, I think that would be inspirational just to people to hear.
Yeah. The candor is one of my top three core values, and candor means sincere honesty. And I think the biggest weakness that I have, if I look back, is cowardice. I uh, I think there's two types of courage. There's competence courage, which I think I have very highly. That's apply to the job, do the thing, write the resume, do the cover letter, send the letter, whatever it is. The competence courage is overcoming your fear of doing the thing. I don't struggle with that very much, to be completely transparent. To me, it was social courage that was the issue. Social courage is say what you actually think. And when you're in high school and you're an engineering thinker and a girl says, "Do I look fat in this?" and you say yes at level 6 out of 10, that doesn't go very well. So you kind of just decide to lock up your truth. And you know what's interesting about that? It's like I do the same thing for me too. Like I'm not deluding myself to thinking I look better than I do. So I actually, when I was a kid, I actually thought people wanted accurate truth. It turns out they just want to delude themselves into whatever, and that's why it's so funny. But the reason I was a social coward, is because candor is not something that is nicey nice, I guess. And I'm a mathematical thinker, and I think in formulas, math, and numbers, and there's four modalities of thinking, and the rarest I think is math and numbers. The next rarest is energy and intuition, and then there's pictures, images, and vision, and then there's words and concepts. I think words and concepts is most people think in words and concepts. And so if you are a math thinker and a formulaic thinker, you most likely feel like an esoteric weirdo who basically can't tell anyone any truth. um, and so to answer your original question, how did we do it? The real answer of the how, rather than giving some formula, and I will give a formula too, is what I told you at the beginning. the giftedness, uh, the work ethic that Kevin and I have is ridiculous.
Mm.
It's, and I never used to think it was that weird until you look back and we coach podcasts. So we produce 50 other podcasts. I coach business owners. I've got 20, like I said, 26 people, 25 people that I coach now. And I have a 19-person team as of today. Actually, it's 19 now. But you learn through getting older how different you are. And so Kevin and I, how did we do it? The short answer is massive pain, suffering, and failure compounded over time and with consistent improvement and learning along the way. And an insane level of grit and work ethic that, quite frankly, we actually tell our clients. They say, well, how do we do what you guys have done? And some of us, like, sometimes we say, you shouldn't. First of all, there's two of us. And secondly, our work ethic and grit, he grew up in a challenging environment as well. Both came from nothing. Nothing I say in quotes because obviously, we're born in the U.S. But compared to other American males, the work ethic's insane. Never used to say that because I was too much of a coward. Oh, you're so hardworking. But here's the thing. There's the grind culture. I'm not saying everyone should go grind. What I will say is that you need to figure out what's aligned for you. And so how did we do it? We have this formula. It's called the success loop. And the problem with podcasting is I'm casting a wide net, and the medicine you give to one patient will actually kill another. So it's very hard for me to because when I'm coaching, I can talk specifically to one person. That's why I asked you before we hit record, who am I talking to? So, but let me give you the success loop. There's the doom loop and there's the success loop. And it's a little different for each core wound based on the psychology and neuroscience, but I'm not going to get into that. What I will say is the main success loop is this. You believe in someone or something, so you implement something. So you believe in something, so you implement something, meaning you do something, you try something. So for example, podcasting. You believe in the podcast, so you do an episode. Then the third thing is you reflect. So you review the episode. You review how many people listened and why and that kind of thing. And then the fourth, so the step 1 is believe, step 2 is implement, step 3 is reflect. Step 4 is learn. And then step 5 is improve. And that's the way it works for any external success. I don't care if you're cooking new recipes or if you're making podcasts or if you're starting a business. If you add work ethic, frequency, intensity, density, duration to that success loop, and you never lose self-belief, but you always hold the duality of belief and humility where you actually reflect and learn instead of stay stubborn, you will eventually be successful. But the key word is eventually. Most people think they're going to be successful way sooner than they really will. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in the short term at the detriment of long-term potential. And Kevin and I coach business owners all over the world now. All different industries, all different backgrounds, hundreds of people over the years. But I started for free. I started coaching listeners for free. And people laugh at that. They say, why would you do that? Listen, because that's how you start. Why should I get paid $10,000 when I've never even done this before? And there's a lot of entitlement culture of know your worth and know your value. It's like, listen, you're not even a good speaker. Why are you charging as much as some of the best speakers in the world who have been doing it for 30 years? And the truth of the matter is you got to start small and you got to build upon that, despite what a lot of the social media BS will tell you. So that's the success loop. Believe, implement, reflect, learn, improve. And hopefully when you improve, it makes you believe even more, implement even more, reflect even more, learn even more, and improve even more. And we just did that for 1,850 episodes. So if you do something 1,850 times, you're going to get good. If this is really effective communication right now, it's because I've done this thousands and thousands of times. It's not because I'm some special person, although I do think I'm gifted, not necessarily in oratory, not necessarily in speaking. I don't feel particularly gifted in that. If anything, I feel like an esoteric weirdo who no one understands. Engineers, I think I'm a good speaker to engineers. Okay. The doom loop is the opposite of the success loop, which is I don't believe in myself, therefore I don't take action, therefore I don't get results, which then makes me what? Believe in myself even less. And so the problem is people go into the success loop, they get early successes. Oh yeah, I'm starting a podcast, I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to New Year's, blah, blah, blah. And then you get failure. You get laughed at. Your aunts and uncles make fun of you. Whatever it is, and then you go into the doom loop of maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I can't do it. And you let self-doubt crush your effing dreams. Mm. You want to know the one thing that I do really well with my clients? I keep them out of the doom loop. I keep them out of the doom loop. Kev admits this, my business partner. He said, dude, I would have failed without you. And I know why. It's not because he's not awesome. It's because I was always there to say, dude, we've got this. We've got this. The amount of L's we've taken, we've taken more L's on this journey than we've ever succeeded. However, every one of those losses, we got a little better, which increased our shot percentage in this metaphor for the wins. And then eventually you outpace so many people that people see you as credible. And when people see you as credible, they believe in you more. And people from the past have reached out. I always believed in you. No, you didn't. Oh my God, no, you didn't. If anything, you were vehemently against me. And by the way, I don't need you to believe in me now. I needed you to believe in me back then. Right? So that's the real answer that I've got for how is we stayed in the success loop and we stayed out of the effing doom loop. And everyone, to some extent, is either in the success loop grinding and growing or in the doom loop stuck feeling sorry for themselves. Everyone to some extent is in one of those two.
No, Alan, I know obviously we're tight for time. I'm also just trying to keep an eye on it. Thank you for sharing that. It was really good. It was really good. It was honest, it was sincere, and it was just factually on point in terms of just the blueprint that people need. So the last question I'll leave you with is, how can people contact you? And obviously, I'm based in Southern Africa. I do put my podcast shorts on LinkedIn for a corporate, from a corporate standpoint. Do you work with clients outside? How do you work? Not how do you work with clients outside of the US? And what type of programs can they kind of expect to run through with you? Some of the basic things. Again, culturally, we're all different. We're open to certain ideas. Some ideas are not. Again, I don't want to say the Southern African demographic are not enthusiastic. They're just harder to motivate because our social circumstances, because of corruption, because of all sorts of adversities that people face day to day. Again, I guess we're very, very not pessimistic, but we're very against
conservative.
Yeah, we're conservative in our optimistic beliefs. So if you could just maybe share some of the systems that you have in place for working with people outside of the US.
Yeah, it's understandable, honestly, and it's such an interesting duality between how do you believe in yourself long term? How do you believe in what's possible long term and hold on to that belief while having the humility and the practicality to execute on a day-to-day basis and realize that it's not just going to work out. Most people who are overly optimistic are delusional. And if it's not married with practicality and day-to-day discipline, it really is delusional. And so it's so unfortunate that the two most important character traits for success are self-belief and humility because they don't usually walk hand in hand. I had self-belief in spades. Kevin had a lot of humility. I struggle with humility. He struggles with self-belief. We were the yin to each other's yang. And fortunately, we both grew up we both didn't have dads. We both have the common core wound of low self-worth. We both had something to prove with a chip on our shoulder. So we worked, and that's not normal. you asked about business partners earlier.
Mm,
It's not normal that Kevin and I have worked, and that comes down to emotional maturity. Because if he and I weren't on the same mission with similar core values from a similar upbringing, it probably wouldn't have worked. I told him one time, I said, dude, if you grew up rich, there's no way this could have worked. Because the dude isn't entitled. He just grew up with
mm,
nothing. So
mm,
very little. You know what I mean? He's the first person in his entire extended family to ever really be super successful. So
mm,
it's something that we've earned every single day. But ultimately, where can people find me, and who can work with me? So I work with people all over the world.
mm,
So my clients are I've worked with people from Italy. I have Spain, New Zealand, Australia. So I work with people all over the world. Just because you're in a different country doesn't mean the business principles are the same. The
mm,
self-improvement principles are the same. The infrastructure and the business to government versus business to business versus
mm,
business to consumer, some of that stuff changes, the legal stuff. But
mm.
ultimately, the fundamental principles of coaching you towards success, achievement, and fulfillment, that's all the same. So I'm happy to get on a free breakthrough session with anyone who wants to. That said, there's places you can find me. There's more than that. You can Google my name. If you Google my name, I'll definitely come up. But the two best places to find me are Next Level University, the Next Level University podcast, Next Level University, spelled just like it sounds. We do an episode every day. And nextleveluniverse.com. If you go to nextleveluniverse.com, you'll see everything on there. We've got a book club. We have a Next Level Dreamliner journal. We do a monthly meetup every single month. Um, there's so much stuff there. We have a group coaching program, 10 people every quarter. We're coming up on 4 years of that. So we have a lot to offer for anyone who has humility to take responsibility for their own life, who wants to build a bigger, better, brighter future, who wants to reach their potential. NLU is for you, Next Level University. And please reach out. Just if you do, provide context, because obviously we get a lot of spam. So I'm on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. I don't really use TikTok, so Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn are probably best. But please reach out. Please email me. All the information will be on the website.
Oh. And thank you for sharing that. I will have the links in the description for the YouTube video, and also I keep them on the bottom tab of the video, the live video that we're doing now, so people will be able to see it and access it. The last question I'll ask is, what are your words of advice for the listeners tuning in today?
The last words of advice.
Not last words, but the words.
Yeah. If I were to put something on a billboard that the whole world would see and be reminded of, it would be your life is your responsibility. It's not my fault that my dad died. It's not my fault that my stepfather left and took his entire extended family. It's not my fault that my mom and stepdad did not get along, and that's the politest way I could possibly put it on a public medium. But it is my responsibility to make a meaningful life out of that. And when you take responsibility, you take back control of your own future. So yeah, all progress starts with telling the truth and taking responsibility.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Alan. From a sincere place, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Absolute pleasure too. Um, you're very intellectually acute, which is really, really good. It's actually inspiring enough itself. So I trust that you continue to use that gift to grow and to inspire people that you interact with through this medium. And again, also extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to Kevin, equally just as amazing as well. Your work ethic is absolutely inspiring. Actually, funny story I'll share before I end off. It was a hella shitty day before we had the interview, before I had the interview with Kevin. All sorts of stuff had gone down. Um, but the openness that he had to understanding my circumstances and situation, that's actually what's kept me going till this day through all the
Really?
moments. Yeah, it was like he said, look, man, you showed up today, keep showing up. And I think that was the motivation I needed. I didn't need to be told things are going to be good or they're going to go well. It was just
Oh,
being
yeah.
told that, you know what, you gotta keep on doing what you're doing. And that's your rent. That's you paying your dues. So the fact that you've reiterated what he said in a different way, in a different light. Again, you guys are like a yin and yang, definitely. Different philosophies, but they've blended into one perfect thing. And this podcast that you've developed is that. So I'll do my part in trying to reach more viewers, more listeners, and garner more support for your mission and what you're doing. And again, thanks, Alan. It's been an absolute joy. It's been an absolute joy to
Thank
have you on.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you for spreading self improvement and spreading awareness and mindset. And to me, that's what the world needs. Is uh, I used to say I want self improvement to spread like COVID. Kevin said not to say that. He's like my PR director. So now I say COVID spread 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. It spread exponentially. And I want self improvement to spread that way. Because where I grew up, there was no self improvement. And self improvement is the answer to a lot of human suffering. So good for you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And definitely keep in touch, my friend.
Definitely. Uh,